When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube, and welcome back to the Grease Goblins YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing my favorite plot lines or POV type characters going into the next book, Winds of Winter. And it was going to be a top 10, but I actually couldn't think of 10 plots because a lot of these are kind of in the same area and should be combined to where realistically, like if you're talking about stuff in the north, that's one plot line. That's not really, I know there's a lot of characters going on, but I didn't want to make this confusing, so I kind of just did top 10 plot lines, put stuff together, and yeah. So this is actually going to be a top 9. I looked at the POV character list as well as areas, and this is kind of what I came up with. I couldn't really think of 10, so yeah. Before we get into the video, if you guys would like to subscribe, like, and comment for more of these type of videos from me, helps out the channel grow to more people that might like this content as well. And let's get into it. So number 9, my least favorite kind of plot going on that'll be in the next book is Bran. Now, Bran, I won't lie, he's probably my least favorite POV chapter or character within the books. He's just, in my opinion, not the most interesting character in the world. As well as his story, for the most part, where it is now, doesn't impact the rest of the Westeros or even Dany's plot that much. I know it can in the future and might, you know, progressively towards the end of this book, but I'm just not really excited for Bran. Maybe Bran, we get some cool flashback scenes or something like that to add to, you know, theories we have with Bran already, but really not excited for Bran, and that's why he's number 9. Number 8, I have Sam/Euron's plot because they're both going to be kind of in Oldstown. And this is kind of where it got hard because I knew Bran was going to be last. Now, there are so many really good plots going on that even this one, which I do think is very interesting, it's just kind of lacks in comparison to a few other ones above it. But Sam and Euron, we have this idea that Euron is going to attack Old Town. And with my theory, I believe that Sam has the Horn of Winter. And eventually Euron will actually get this. And he will actually use the horn and the wall will come down. That is what I could definitely see happening, and maybe towards the mid or back half of the next book, I could definitely see that happening. So that is why it's here, because Sam as well, when he goes to the Citadel, for me, is not the most interesting character either. Don't get me wrong, I like a lot of the interactions he has with Marwyn, the mage at the Citadel, and stuff like that, but he just, for me, is the most impactful character at this point of the books. He's kind of just trying to gather information to fight the others or to negotiate with them as the story progresses. And Euron is a character where I don't know how long he will survive. I think his big use for George and the plot as a whole will be getting the Horn of Winter, as well as, you know, trying to maybe, you know, when Victarion, if he ever uses, you know, Dragonbinder, his other horn that he has for, you know, taming a dragon, that could also be a big thing he ends up using. I just don't know how long he's going to survive. I don't even know if he's going to live the fight at Oldstown. I think he'll live long enough to do what I've said a few times. So getting on to number 7 is going to be Dany and Tyrion's plot at this point. Now, I know. I'm going to get people, usually people, I have a lot of people that watch my videos that really like Dany, and that's cool. She's really not one of my favorite characters out of the major characters within the story. I've always viewed her as I do kind of Bran, even though I think Dany's story is far better. Don't get me wrong, like Dany has a great story. I just prefer other people's stories. Like, no hate to Dany, I think she's a fantastic character. I completely understand why people think she is their favorite character or love her. It makes complete sense. But with that being said, I personally like other characters that impact Westeros more and focus on the main plot, because Dany is going to have a major effect when it comes to the end point of the story and more of the maybe second half of this next book, where that's when I'm going to be a lot more excited for Dany, because Dany, a lot of this next book will probably be her wrapping up Essos and then coming to Westeros either at the end of the book or maybe towards maybe the end of the middle, somewhere around there. And you have all these interesting characters with Dany as well, as why she's above Sam and Euron, where you've got Tyrion, you've got Barris in there, You got Victarion coming there. A lot of interesting characters colliding on one point where there is a lot to be excited with her character. I've just never been the biggest Dany fan, which, again, it's personal opinion, and I have no problems if you love her as a character. Number 6, Arya. So Arya is someone that in the show I hated. I hated Arya. I didn't like Arya after like season 4. I thought she was just a very stale and boring character. In the book, she's a lot different. I love the way George has used her character with the faceless men and stuff like that, giving her moral dilemmas as well, and kind of doing this idea where Arya, does she want to kill people that don't necessarily deserve to be killed, but it's who the faceless men are telling, you know, her to kill. And it's this really interesting idea, is that, is Arya going to be the someone that will kill people and is ruthless, or will she have kind of that character development where she goes back on that and finds some sort of mercy as well as that? And I also think Arya, which is something I think is really exciting, is I think she's going to get back into Westeros, you know, and I think it's going to be tough for her to, because I don't think she's actually going to escape the faceless men. I think she's either going to have to basically do this thing where she accepts a mission across Westeros, or it's going to be one of those things where they let her go, but they contact her again and she's going to have to do a mission, because there's no way that they're just going to let her leave. It's not going to be like the show where she just, you know, kills one person and then boom, they just let her go and never, you know, come back for her. So I think Arya is going to have to give up something to go to Westeros, which I think is a cool idea. And I would really like to see her meet her mother, Lady Stoneheart, again, and have that be a major factor in why Arya changes as a character going forward in the books. So that is a big reason why Arya is number 6 and why I'm really looking forward to her character within the next book. Number 5 is going to be Sansa, and it's not really because of Sansa. I'm more really like intrigued to see what happens with Littlefinger and what Littlefinger's up to, because I've done a video about Littlefinger and Sansa because they're characters that are very much locked together at this point. What is Littlefinger going to do? Because he has so many options that I think it's interesting. And the plan he even gives Sansa doesn't make a lot of sense when you look at Littlefinger and the power he's giving up if he lets Sansa marry Harry the Heir. If you want more detail into that, because I don't want to like stick onto the same, you know, person for too long or plot line, check out those videos. I get pretty more in depth with where I think Littlefinger can go and where Sansa can go and all that. But I'm just really intrigued to see what Littlefinger does and what George kind of has for that plot. If he has Sansa going north, trying to get her power with, you know, in Riverlands and the Vale, or if she's going to, you know, try to hook up with Aegon at some point. So, you know, really a lot of ways you could go with her character. And looking at number 4, so number 4 is going to be kind of like King's Landing in general, but Cersei, since she's our main point of view character within there. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what Cersei does with Kevin Lannister dying, you know, and all these characters that are loyal to the Lannisters. And we see this major power shift again where really Cersei's kind of alone. There's really nobody left for her in King's Landing. And with, you know, Feast for Crows, we see kind of how her mind works and seeing the Tyrells as a direct enemy. And I think that will continue into this next book. It's going to be interesting to see how Cersei handles the Tyrells and if she does go full Mad Queen. Because right now I don't think she's Mad Queen. I think she's definitely emotionally distressed, and she's also stupid and cruel. So we'll see if she continues to take those next steps to where maybe she does something with Wildfire. Maybe she does that. I inevitably think she's going to die to Aegon, but who knows? We'll see what happens. And that is, again, King's Landing is always interesting in pretty much every book, but I think this is actually probably where it's been at its lowest of interest for me. The first 3 books, of course, had peak interest, and then the 4th and 5th, with Tywin dying, it kind of left a lot of intrigue for what was going to happen. This is probably the lowest King's Landing's been for my interest, but I think it'll still be really good, why it's ranked on the top half of plotlines I'm looking forward to. So number 3 is going to be the Riverlands. So I decided to just kind of group the Riverlands together because there's a lot going on in there with Lady Stoneheart, you know, Brendan, with kind of the whole Edmure Tully stuff with Jane Westerling there. There's a lot going on there. Nymeria's Wolfpack, of course. there's a lot going on in the Riverlands, and I'm really just excited to see how that wraps up. If we can get some revenge on the Freys, I think there's going to be a Red Wedding 2.0 with Lady Stoneheart getting some revenge and kind of ending out her character. I think the Riverlands are going to be really interesting, like they always usually are. The Riverlands and King's Landing are usually two of the most interesting plots because everything goes through both of those plots. So really looking forward to that plot as well as I think a lot of other characters are going to meet into the Riverlands with Arya, like I said before, maybe Sansa. Really cool if we can see some of those characters kind of, you know, unite within the Riverlands. Going into number 2, I have Aegon or Fagon. Some people asked me, they weren't really understanding if, you know, what Fagon actually meant. And by Fagon, I mean like he's the fake Aegon. He's not actually Rhaegar's son. He's actually a Blackfire. If you want to see more on that, check out my Varys or Aegon videos. Those both go way more in depth with kind of his parentage and stuff. But him as a character, I think he's very intriguing. Because he's a character that has a lot of support at this point. He could have the Dornish, the Golden Company. He's already taken a major, you know, castle in Storm's End. He's a character that's set up to do really well in this next book. I don't think it's going to be as easy as that, but I think he will take King's Landing with all that's going on in King's Landing. I don't think Cersei can win that. And then I think we're going to see Aegon kind of be a catalyst to Dany, where Dany's going to be forced with these moral dilemmas of, okay, the people here don't like me, because I think they will like Aegon, because Aegon's gonna free them from Cersei. For all they know, right? They don't know, like, having all these doubts about him being a Blackfire and stuff like that. They're gonna think he's the rightful heir. He's Rhaegar's son, right? They're gonna think he is the rightful heir to the throne, and they're gonna, I think, probably love him. Dany's gonna come over kind of as a foreign invader and someone that's not really wanted. You know, the Seven Kingdoms have been at war. I think when they finally get somewhat united, she's gonna be the one to kind of deunite them almost. And we understand why Dany's doing it, of course, and she has every reason to, because Aegon is not, you know, the right, you know, heir. But we see all those interesting conflicts that you're going to see with Aegon and him being that catalyst to probably Dany, you know, maybe not as much in this book, because I think Dany won't really get to Westeros in time for us to see a lot of that play out. Maybe at the very back half of the book, we will see some of that play out. And maybe we'll even get, you know, Dany's reaction to Aegon even being a thing in this next book, which we should. That should at least be something that comes up. But it should be really interesting to see where Aegon's character goes in this next book, and I'm really excited to see that. And my number 1, I feel like you guys probably guessed this pretty easily if you've watched a lot of my videos before this, because Stannis is my favorite character. I've said that in multiple videos. But I think everything going on in the North, you know, with Davos's plot, with Jon's plot, with Stannis's plot, with the Northern conspiracy going on, there's just so much going on in the North that makes that whole area the most interesting for me. And alongside that, you know, I think it'll be the battleground for the others as well, because I think we will at least see one maybe attack at the end of the book or something going on there that will start, you know, kickstart the next book where we have this dream of spring starting with the conflict with the others and stuff like that. I think we'll see something going on within the North, and that's really why. I mean, there's just so much stuff in the North, which is why I think it's my most exciting thing, you know, to look at. And yeah, let me know what you guys are excited for in the next book the most. I think there's a ton to unpack if you're George, why this book has taken so long, because there's just so many plot lines going on, so many subplots, so many things he has to wrap up. And I think that's probably a big reason why this book has taken so much longer to finish, as well as a lot of, you know, other distractions George has been, you know, doing with other books, other shows, other types of things right now. I think this is probably my top favorites in the Winds of Winter, and I hope you guys, you know, are excited for Winds of Winter whenever it does come out, and let me know what you guys think is going to be your favorite, your least favorite. You know, do a whole list if you want. I don't care. But I will see you guys all in the next video, and bye, guys.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.